Okay, we are good to go, Jerry.
We are good to go. Well, I want to welcome everyone to the October 14th Rush Town Board meeting. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you'll be glad you did.
Sorry, hang on.
To what?
Are you ready? Sorry, Jerry, I'm hearing the YouTube in my background and I'm hearing you at the same time.
Oh. Anything I can do?
No, you're good. It's all you now.
All right.
I'll stop interrupting. Sorry for the confusion.
No, you interrupt whenever you'd like.
I hear voices in my head and it scares me.
Again, I want to welcome everyone. Will you please join me in our pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will Town Clerk Busey please call the roll?
Councilman Wolver,
Here.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Here.
Supervisor Cusey,
I am here, thank you.
and also present is Deputy Town Supervisor Victoria Mazzetti.
Here.
I noticed that. I only have one announcement, and that is for those of you who were not aware of the event that we had on Monday. We proclaimed at our last town board meeting, Indigenous Peoples Day in the town of Rush. And as a result of that, we had a whole bunch of Indigenous people meet us in the town of Avon, and meet us in the town of Rush, and it was a wonderful event. If you didn't make it and you wanted to, you missed, but it was good, and maybe we'll do it again, who knows? Right now, we are going to go into our public comment period. Remember, this is where you can make your comment, ask your question, but you will not get a response. And please be respectful of other people in attendance, and please be courteous, and thank you.
All righty. So the first person is Janet Locker, and she lives at 791 Rush Henrietta Town Line Road. Janet, I'm trying to find you.
Good evening,
Oh, there you are.
everyone.
Okay.
May I go?
Yes, I was trying to find your name. And
Thank you. I'd like to follow on with Supervisor Cusey's announcement about the Indigenous Peoples Proclamation and Day. In doing so, I'd like to thank a bunch of people, and the challenge with this always is that you might forget someone, so I'll apologize in advance. Sue Me and the Rush Historical Committee did a great job of researching and putting together a proclamation. And yesterday, on Monday at around 11 o'clock, I would estimate that 60 or 70 Indigenous people, plus a bunch of us Europeans, gathered at the Kanawagis sign, which is on the Caledonia. It was in Caledonia, close to the intersection with River Road. There were speeches, there were testimonials, people were beautifully dressed. They carried lots of signs as they marched along Route 5. People were blowing horns. It was quite the day. And then the indigenous people went to the park in Avon. Canawagus apparently means stinky smell or uncomfortable odor, which comes from the sulfur springs that were there. So they had lunch there, and then they journeyed over to the Rush Town Hall where Supervisor Kusi made the proclamation. Amber Corbin was very helpful in that day. She helped with a lot of planning. Nobody will be surprised to learn that Evie knew everybody there because she apparently grew up with them over near Buffalo. Sue Miller was there. John and Jean Morelli were there. Marianne Rizzo was there. Deb Kusi was there. I know I'm forgetting somebody, so please accept my apologies, but it was a colorful day. It was a thoughtful day. I would encourage you all to go on the website of Residents United. It's at www.rush-solar.com. There are a number of stories about the Seneca people here in the town of Rush. They were our first residents. And again, I'm thankful to everyone who had a part in that day. It was something I will never forget. It was simply a wonderful day. So thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you, Janet. Does anyone else have a public comment for the first public comment period? All right, Jerry, you can probably move on to the next agenda item.
Okay, next we would like an approval of the September 23rd minutes. Would anybody like to propose a resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the town board minutes of September 23rd, 2020, as submitted by Town Clerk Pamela Busey.
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Kusi,
Aye. I don't know who that was, but I'll move on.
Wasn't me.
We have a transfer of funds tonight by Councilwoman Corbin.
We actually have 4, so I'd just like to give just a brief little overview so everyone is well aware of the transfers. So transfer 6 relates to additional funding received from the Forefront Power LLC for their Tier 3 solar project in our town. Transfer 7 is a reallocation of costs for the deputy supervisor. Transfer 8 is to fund additional costs for the building inspector training and BAS software. And transfer 9 is to cover software costs for the code enforcement officer. So I so move, be it resolved that having audited all the unreserved, unanticipated revenues and unexpected balances of existing appropriations, I move that transfer for 2020 number 6 for $20,000, reflecting additional escrow funding from Forefront Solar. Number 7 for $5,000 to reclassify cost for the deputy town supervisor. Number 8 for $2,500 to fund additional costs for building inspector training and BAS software. And number 9 for $1,000 to cover code enforcement BAS software be approved. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Kusi,
Aye. All right, we can move on to the approval of the abstract by Councilman Wolver.
Having reviewed, excuse me, having reviewed all vouchers, 905 through 957, excluding 935, that they be approved in the payment of the amount of $46,451.50.
I will second that. I'll second it.
Councilman Mueller,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
Aye. We do have a public hearing for the budget at 7:15, but I think we've got a couple of minutes and I can sneak a couple of items through there. On correspondence, I wanted everyone to know that I was approached by the Director of Finance for Monroe County, who asked me for a listing of COVID-related expenses. And I wanted to make sure that everyone knew what I submitted. And believe it or not, our COVID-related expenses, that is spending your money to make sure the town continued to operate, was in the $80,000 range. We are hoping that some assistance will come through and we can get reimbursed for some, most, or all of that. I'm hoping. The second thing I wanted to mention was, as most of you know, we had a large, very successful volunteer group of gardeners who worked all summer long, making our flower beds in several locations around the hamlet look good, and they did look good. I couldn't tell the difference between what I saw this year and professional gardener we previously had. I thought they did an exceptional job. I've received a complete report on that. I'm happy to say that I think most of the volunteers are willing to do that project again in 21. And I've had a preliminary discussion with our town highway superintendent about someone else hauling the water, and it looks like we might be able to provide that. So the ladies and gentlemen who tended to the gardens can tend to trimming, digging, weeding, etc. We'll take care of the water. The other thing I wanted to mention is the QPK firm that we hired to produce the working prints for the repair of the library roof has completed their task. They have provided us with a large format working drawings that are available if you want to view them in the supervisor's conference room or in the town clerk's office. You cannot remove them, but you can sure come and look at them. And I'm at a point where I'm getting very, very excited for that work to start. I've had a couple of questions asked about, aren't you worried about the snow? Well, their process is to do any outside work first and then do the inside work after everything is buttoned up. So these are professional people who know what they're doing, and I have yielded to them to advise, and I'm excited about where this is going to go. I think we are at our time for our public hearing. Town clerk, would you read the notice, please?
of course. Okay, the legal notice was posted in the Post, on the website, and on the town clerk board as required, and read as follows. Legal notice, notice of public hearing on preliminary budget for town of Rush. Hereby given that the preliminary budget of the town of Rush for the year 2021 has been completed and filed in the office of the Rush Town Clerk, where it will be available for inspection by any interested person during regular office hours beginning on September 22nd. The Rush Town Board will hold a public hearing on October 14th at 7:15 PM at the Rush Town Hall, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York. At such hearing, any person may be heard in favor or against the preliminary budget as compiled. The preliminary budget included the following proposed salaries for the elected officials for 2021. Officer for supervisor, $34,232. Town board member, $8,136. Town clerk, $60,914. Town justice, $15,800. Highway superintendent, $82,941. And based on the health advisory issued by the federal, state, and local officials related to COVID virus, the information dealing with that and the instructions for the virtual were posted. I don't believe I have to read every single motion of that, but exactly the same. All participants, though, will have first be in the waiting room and accepted into the virtual meeting. Call in the Zoom meeting at 646-558-8656. And when prompted, enter the meeting ID 3852-4913, and the password is 14543.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would like to add to that we maintained a very conservative approach to developing our budget this year. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that every employee in the town of Rush, except for those who were impacted by state minimum wage laws, everyone has a flat salary this year going into next year, no increases. Again, except for the minimum wage people. That was a very, very big concession. It was made because of the it was made because of the costs that we incurred, which I previously shared with you. Over $80,000 worth of COVID-related costs, and also a significant reduction in sales tax, which we and other municipalities so depend on an annual basis. We don't know what the third quarter sales tax is going to be. We don't know what the fourth quarter sales tax is going to be. So taking all that into account, plus some other less monetary things, we decided to maintain a very conservative approach and only spend money on things that absolutely had to be spent. Given that this is a public hearing, would anyone like to comment about that?
Jeff Werner, and he is at 8427 West Henrietta Road.
Good evening, Jerry. Good evening, board, Amber, and Dan. Can everybody hear me?
Well,
I hear you, Jeff.
Okay, great. I think you're exactly correct, Jerry. Conservative on the budget. It's nice that it's posted to the website so that we can go through it and review it as taxpayers to see where our money is going. I guess one's a comment and then one is a question. Is I have a little bit of concern over the year-end fund balance. And it looks as though we are way over where the town minimum or the town target is. And so the question I would have is, did the town board do their due diligence and actually consider lowering that fund balance even slightly? Even if you came down to lower the tax rate 10 cents a thousand or something like that. That fund balance, I believe, is well over what the general municipal law calls for. And I know that's been a bone of contention in the past. It is a conservative approach to keep that amount of money in the bank for us to operate as a town. I understand that, but at the same time, it's in the times that we're in. I know there's some taxpayers in town that absolutely would have appreciated even possibly a little break in their tax rate. So I guess I asked the board, are you comfortable raising that fund balance? It looks like on the chart that I'm looking at, it's going up slightly, but it is on the increase, well above where the recommended rate should be. And
Would you like me to respond to that, Jeff?
Sure.
I will respond, and then I will yield to the board members and to the finance director, Dan Klimek, who can either tell me I'm all wrong or add to what I'm saying. I agree with you, Jeff. To maintain a fund balance like that is ridiculous for a town with our size of budget. And my goal would have been to do exactly what you proposed or suggested. However, we've got several things that have been ignored for years. I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but come sit down with me and I'll go through it with you. One of the things is the library roof, which I will be announcing later in this meeting. We've got our RFPs ready to go out. We've got to get that fixed. It's been leaking for 15 years. We cannot continue to allow it to leak. And the cost, the engineer that I talked to early on in this project said, why didn't you get it fixed 15 years ago? It probably would have cost you $10,000 to $15,000. Well, now it's going to cost us over 200. And that's why the fund balance is going to be eroded to help pay for that library roof repair expense. And then next year we can look at what we can do, Jeff, to go in the direction that you have suggested. Anyone else like to piggyback on that?
Yeah, Jerry, I'd like to make a couple of additional comments. The fund balance, Jeff, has been going up, and it's been going up quite frankly because the town has received more revenues than what we budgeted over the last several years, in particular sales tax. We budget for a particular amount that we're going to receive, and we've received more than we anticipated. Now, what we have done over the last several years is to try to be cautiously reducing that fund balance. Keep in mind, if you use fund balance to cover operating costs, then when the fund balance is no longer there, you're going to wind up seeing a rather significant hit on your property tax. So we've been trying to be cautiously bringing that down. The problem is that the town's revenues have come in better than we anticipated. Now, in the current budget, on page 1 of the budget, it shows that even for this year, we are showing that we're looking to apply about $125,000 of that fund balance toward this year. Again, to try to be more aggressive than that, I think would get us into trouble in coming years. I think you just have to be careful and try to bring it down gradually. The other thing that you do with a fund balance that's high is look for one-time expenditures that you could use that on, things that don't have a recurring nature to it. And that's, as I was mentioning, the operating budget is obviously a recurring thing. Every year you're going to have the payroll, every year you're going to have all the different items that are in the budget that you see. But something such as the library roof is a one-time expenditure. And those are the kind of things, that you do to help bring that balance down if you're looking for a substantial change from one period to the next. I think we're being careful, we're being cautious. I would not want to see us be any further aggressive. The other and last comment I'll make is that we have been sensitive in the property tax area. It's been since 2013 that there has been any tax increase to the residents of Rush. In several of those years, we actually brought the tax down a little bit as we paid off, for example, the bond on the town hall and a few things like that. So, I think that, again, in looking at the budget from a finance standpoint, I think it's a good budget. It's a very conservative budget. It's a cautious budget given what COVID-19 has done for us and several of the unknown questions that we just don't know yet what's going to happen. We really don't know what's going to happen with the sales tax. We have a pretty good comfort level with what we put into the budget for that, but we really don't know. So, there again, if our estimates are high, obviously that would cut into the fund balance even a little more. But at this point, I think that it's a good budget for all of us for the town of Rush.
Thank you, Dan. Board members?
I think Jeff wanted, this is Amber. I think, Jeff, did you have more you wanted to speak to?
He does, but you have some to add
Oh,
for this
okay.
first part.
Oh, Supervisor QC, it looks like Victoria's having a little bit of problem with her internet. And I do see that Deborah QC is asking to speak as well.
Yes, thank you, Pam. I thought it would be more appropriate to speak up now versus the public comment period, because this is the topic that is forefront right now. But this gets to my suggestion, I can't remember, a couple meetings ago, to provide data analysis of trends of revenue relative to what Dan Klimick is speaking of, so we can see as a town what we're dependent on and what we can and can't control relative to our revenue stream to support our budget that Jeff and Jerry have just been talking about. So I would like, you don't have to answer now, but I would like to know what the outcome of that decision is to better track the trends relative to our dependency on tax income, sales tax income, to help us understand what we are comfortable with this budgeted deficit or budgeted free money that we just expect our budget to be supported by. So I would like more transparency on that and more demonstrated ability to forecast it, to support the expenses that are being planned by the town. So again, I was going to bring that up at the last public comment, but this I think is more appropriate with the topic that's being discussed right now.
Thank you. Dan, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, certainly. And Debbie, thank you for the question. Certainly what we can provide is a trend of where the sales tax has been over the past 10 years, for if that would help, how much we've received on an annual basis or quarterly basis over a 5 to 10 year period. That would give a sense of, and quite frankly, that's what I look at when we're trying to drop some numbers in, but it would give us a sense of where the numbers have been and where they may go. I'm with the boards, obviously this is a decision of the board. I'm more than happy to provide further information on that particular category or any other.
Thank you, Dan. Amber, do you have any comment on that, or Dan Woolaver, any comment?
Can you guys hear me okay now?
We can now.
All right, I kicked my husband off the internet and now I'm sitting right next to the router.
Jerry, can I finish, seeing I have the floor and finish the second part of my question?
You had a second point, Jeff, you wanted to make, so go ahead.
Yes.
I don't think anyone else wants to add.
Okay, I guess I'm looking at the numbers with Dan and yes, the tax rate is stable. Yeah, you talked basically the valuation has gone up to the tune of about $12 million in the past 5 years. So even though the tax rate is stable, we're not seeing a stable tax bill. And that's just due to reassessment, reevaluations. Maybe to piggyback on Ms. QC's comment, more transparency with the budget. I think you're fairly transparent from what I see with the revenues coming in, with the increase in revenues, but I would like to see a little more transparency with the reserve fund. And I guess if that was explained in the preliminary budget, seeing we did not have a capital reserve for the library, that the monies for the repairs are going to come out of the unexpended balance, that would have answered some of the questions, ahead of time for me. So maybe in the future for any board is to have a little bit more descriptive reasoning behind the different balances that are unexpended, carried over, rate increases, things like that. That's all I have.
I thank you very much for that opinion.
Hey,
Anyone
Jerry,
else?
Jean Morelli also wanted to speak in the public hearing, if that is okay.
Yes, and certainly.
And if everyone could just state their name and address for the record, it'd be great.
Jean, where are you? There you are.
Hi, Jean Morelli, 535 Five Points Road. I'd like to thank the board and Dan for all the work that they put into analyzing this budget. And I know there's a lot to consider, but I'm just curious. It's just a question, not a complaint really, but why wouldn't you put in the budget an amount for under capital outlay for building operation and maintenance, since we know, the work is underway for the library roof, and it would more accurately reflect what we know is happening with the budget this year. And we could see, the reason, because I was also looking at the fund balance. I have the budget open on another screen here that I'm looking at. I'm wondering, we have a fairly decent cushion, which we're going to eat away at now for the library roof. And there's also other things. I'm just wondering what else, because there's a budget, and I don't know, maybe there's another line item, but I see $30,000 for BOCES Town Hall Pavilion, web redesign. And I don't know where the library roof would come in on, maybe under the library budget. Not sure. But why wouldn't we put those other things when we've got plans to do this? Then we could understand why we need that cushion in the reserve account.
Jerry?
Dan?
Yeah. Gene, when we developed the 2020 budget, this would have been done late summer, about this time last year. There was no decision. This is pre-election. There was no decision to proceed with a library roof repair, certainly to the extent of what the costs will be. We had budgeted roughly $49,000 for various capital items last year in the budget, as you see the $30,000 this year. Now, certainly earlier this year, we could have said that, hey, let's do a budget adjustment to add the 250 or whatever that total for the library roof is going to be to the 2020 budget. And of course, the set funding source would have been the unexpended fund balance. So we certainly could have done that. We did not do that, have not done that, quite frankly, in my opinion, until we had a very, very definite period, a time frame in which that work was going to be done. I know Jerry wants that done before the end of the year, but again, once we know and when those kinds of disbursements are going to occur, we'll do a budget transfer. And then you would see that that would come out of that unexpended fund balance at that point in time. But until we know with certainty when that expenditure is going to occur, we may be a bit premature. It's, it's essentially that would be my answer for you.
Gene, I'll give you one last bit of my opinion, and that is earlier this year when we were confronted with $12,000 of expense for HVAC repair, I said to myself, "Oh my God, what if we hit something similar next year or the year after?" So that is on the radar, and you will see it in the future. Just like I told Mr. Warner, you'll see a reduction in the unexpended fund balance. We're trying to take what we inherited and manage it to where it should be. And in the process, taking care of some things that need to be taken care of. So you will see that stuff in the future, just like Ms. Kuzi asked for transparency. You will see that in the future. We're still getting our speed up and trying to make sure that we don't burden the taxpayer and that we take care of their property. Anyone else?
There is no one else for the public hearing.
All right, then.
Pam, did you just hear the doorbell ring for someone to let someone in?
Yeah, someone named Don.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and Jerry, I will provide you with a trend analysis on what's occurred with sales tax revenues and any other category within the next couple of days. And then
I thought you would do that. Thank you.
Then you can distribute as you see appropriate, you and the board.
Thank you.
You bet.
Did Deputy Supervisor, did you say someone by the name of Don wanted to speak?
No, they were in the wait. I heard the doorbell ring, but because my
Oh.
internet is a little wonky, Pam let them in.
It was probably a Fuller brush salesman. All right. I declare the hearing closed. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye. Thank you very much to all. We're going to move on to reports from board members and department heads. And I think because A is the first letter, we can go to Councilwoman Corbin.
All right, this is Amber Corbin, and I'm giving my update. I attended the Conservation Board meeting as Town Board Liaison on October 1st. They reviewed a Tier 3 solar installation on Honey Eye Falls number 6 Road, and they reviewed the preliminary site plan at 6970 East River Road. I was also honored and privileged to attend the Indigenous Peoples Day proclamation at the Town Hall on October 12th, as well as the events in Avon and Caledonia. Under old business, I will report on the Rush Riverside Refuge dumping that is on the agenda. So I will wait till then. And I think that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about Councilman Woolaver?
I attended the zoning board meeting. They had 2 workshops. There seems to be confusion about the process. Both applicants thought they were going to receive approval or disapproval at the first meeting. I think we should include some kind of notice as to how timing works for the town board or for the zoning board meeting. There's a workshop first, then the zoning board comes out and takes a look at the property, and then they determine it, and then they give the determination in the second month. And depending on when the application actually goes in, it has to hit the paper. Like one of the applicants had applied too late in August to get on the September meeting. So they were going, their first meeting was October, and now they can't start the project till November, and they were a little bit upset. If it were better explained with the application, it'd be better.
Thank you. As the liaison to the ZBA, I think you can hold their feet to the fire to make sure that this gets improved. Will that work?
Okay.
Do you have any
Sorry, Ms. Supervisor, I was just going to add something. I'll wait till you're done.
No, you go ahead. You're A.
I was just going to say, I believe, Dan, that's a great suggestion. I know that when I was on the zoning board, the process did get changed. So probably having that written out in a much better detailed format and put it on our website would be a great idea. So thank you for bringing that up.
It would help.
Thank you. Dan, do you have any update on 1911? I just received updated information today. I don't know if it's too early to share that with people, but I thought I would ask the question.
That's their final report. I know it came out late today. If the town board would like to look it over, perhaps they could ask questions of the committee at the next town board meeting. And I had one suggestion that we should put together a questionnaire or something to be mailed to all the voters in the town as to what they really would like to do with that property, based on the findings from that committee.
Well, I am one who agrees with you because I'm not sure that we have total approval on what to do with that property. And I think there could be a lot of people who are not aware of our process to determine that, or maybe haven't had time to weigh in, but I think that's a good idea.
I don't know if this is possible, but I think the best way to do it is to almost send out the committee's report, because it's kind of detailed about possibilities for that property. And then if we could include like a self-addressed postcard or something to send back with the 4 different options, what you're in favor of. I'm trying to get it to the most people that we can in the town. And it's, I know it's difficult. The newsletter, some people read, different outlets on the internet, different people read. We really need to get it out to everybody in the town.
I agree. In the meantime, I'm very concerned, as I'm sure you are, the weather conditions that we're confronting in just a few weeks could be more threatening to that structure. As you've reported many times, we do need a new roof over there. We're not going to put a new roof on if we're not going to use the building, obviously. The water has been turned off in the building, but it still services the building, so we've got to be careful of it freezing. I was told today that the power did not get shut off, so maybe we can maintain the heat level in a way that it won't do any damage. But I think doing what you suggested is the right thing to do to get more input. How about Deputy Supervisor Mazzetti?
Looking at the agenda, my two things are later on under old business, if you want me to wait until then. Or I can say everything now.
Oh, you can wait until then.
Okay.
We'll get department heads. I know our recreation supervisor is celebrating her 25th wedding anniversary tonight. So she asked to be excused and I said, don't you know what's more important, Pat? So she's not here. And I don't know if Mark is in the audience.
Mark David is not, and I do not see the finance director or,
He's here,
I mean, the tax guy, the tax
the
assessor.
assessor. Yeah, that's okay.
And Kirsten, I don't see, but Pam, did she give you an update?
She just said business as usual, nothing new.
And then if John Mancuso has one, and Pam.
I have no report.
How about Pam? Do you have a report?
I do have a report. I did submit the September report to the supervisor with a check for revenue for last month, $10,327.13. With the larger contributions to that were the pavilion rental and building permits. And also state checks were submitted totaling $4,323.91. School tax collection will continue through the end of October. And to date, $4,952,501.53 have been collected. I received a report from the Monroe County Department of Human Resources. We are at 100% compliance for civil service certified payroll and titles. And I did attend the Monroe County Town Clerks and Tax Receivers and Collectors meeting on October 8th, hosted by the town of Penfield. The department on hand was the New York State DEC. The meeting was also a combined Zoom and social distancing. So that was interesting. The IT department was there to handle any issues. And as far as the DEC, the commissions are up $600 this year from last year. And the pricing has not changed. So we have a little bit of a surplus there. And that is, oh, and then West Fire today reviewed the system, testing it as normal, which everyone.
Did the DEC get their web problems fixed?
No, there's still issues. They're working on it. There's quite a few issues, but it's a new program.
Good. I think I called on everyone. So let's move on to old business. You may recall, we previously heard a complaint about dumping at the Rush Riverside, the former Bosse's property, and Councilwoman Corbin jumped in and said that she had a committee to look into that. Do you have any report on that tonight, Councilwoman Corbin?
Yes, I have an update. Marion Rizzo, Catherine Hankins, Chris Giordano, and myself had our second meeting on October 6th via Zoom. We met for a little over an hour. The three of them had been to the location earlier that day and noticed some additional dumping had taken place. I've shared the overview with the supervisor of our meeting on October 6th. And we would hope that there would not be any further materials put in the Rush Riverside Refuge. And they would like to work with the highway superintendent and possibly set up a meeting to just have a discussion via Zoom, however, that could possibly work. And in the best interest of our town, to work to make sure that this Rush Riverside Refuge that is a town park be maintained as a park. And in my discussion with the supervisor, I asked if it could be put on the agenda tonight so that the town board could discuss the situation of materials by whomever are being put in one particular location that has been identified, and how we as a board would like to proceed with that happening in a town park. So I'm going to open it up to Councilman Woolever, Deputy Supervisor Musetti, and the supervisor and myself to have a brief discussion in front of the public as to what we would like to do to get back to the residents that have noticed this and brought it to our attention.
From what I understand, it's a low spot over there, and just the town occasionally puts clean fill in that. So I don't know if there's another place where the town can get rid of that. I know they could haul it away, but how much money do we want to spend to get rid of clean fill?
Well, Dan, I did go over there myself, and I guess I need to be educated on what clean fill would be, but it still is a park. And I don't think.
But I don't know where would we put it then? I'm just, you know.
Well, right. I guess we have to figure out where it came from. Maybe that would help. Or maybe it's not even us, the town. Maybe other people are depositing materials there that we don't know of.
Well, I agree that other people shouldn't be dumping stuff there. But the town has clean fill. I mean, they fill in a low spot, bulldoze it off, and it's flat and plant grass, and it's better than when you started.
Well, again, maybe we could all go over there and look at it, but I think as far as a plan for a park, we should probably have that discussion so we can all be part of that, because it has been brought to our attention that there is materials there that apparently might be more than just clean fill.
Yeah, from my understanding.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Victoria.
go ahead, Amber, sorry.
No, please.
You can't read people's body language. I hate Zoom. So from my understanding, Dan, I don't know what is considered clean fill or
Stuff that
inert
won't rot
materials.
and stuff that won't rot and decompose and sink over time.
So the pictures that
It
from
could
the
be
presentation.
rock, it could be concrete, anything that won't compact.
Can you guys hear me okay? Oh, so
Yep.
from my understanding, I don't think that some of those things were clean fill.
Well, then it's coming from if it's not clean fill, it shouldn't be there. That
Yeah,
should
like
be the only
there's
thing.
basketball hoop, a rubber tubing, piping or something.
Yeah, that's just illegally dumped stuff. And the town wouldn't do that. And only the town should be allowed to go there.
So as the town board then, in conjunction with the highway department, we should set up a plan of some sort to have those discussions and stop anything that's going in there, right? Until we have a plan. It's just like anyone's property. You'd like to have a plan before something gets out to a certain situation where it's hard to
Sure.
fix it.
Definitely got to get input from the highway department.
I had
And
go ahead, Amber.
no, I'm fine.
I had a lengthy discussion with the regional DEC engineer. And I had a fairly lengthy discussion with Mark, our highway superintendent. And the good news is Mark said he'd be more than happy to collaborate with the board. And he said whatever the board decided, he will comply with. So that is encouraging for me to have that discussion sooner rather than later. I hope you'll all agree.
Very good.
Totally agree. And,
Mhm.
and hopefully any materials will not be deposited there until we have a good group plan to work together and make sure that lovely area, which so many people are becoming more and more aware of, is a valued asset to the town. So
You know,
thank you.
I don't
So-
want to speak, I don't want to speak for Mark. I would prefer that he be here to. I thought it was interesting that he said they never have trouble getting rid of inert fill material due to requests for fill on private property. The problem is when they don't have any immediate requests and they've got several truckloads of stuff, it has found its way over there. And that's a hurdle we've got to get across, because I personally don't think it's the right place to dump. But
Well,
we'll see.
just the word dump and park don't go together.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, when I think of dump, I think of refuse that gets collected in a big packer truck, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about mainly earthen construction waste, you know, trench material and stuff like that. So we should have that conversation sooner than later and get to that point.
So can we make a commitment then as a board to, at the next town board meeting, to have a further report for the residents, and that we will do our best if Highway Superintendent David is willing to meet with us, which it sounds like he is, to hopefully work forward towards a positive outcome.
We can make that commitment.
Supervisor
All right, thank
Casey,
you.
could I ask a question?
As long as it isn't, can you dump there?
No, I'm not gonna go dump anything over there. Could I get clarification on who actually has control of that property? I thought there was a, committee that was appointed, but I'm hearing the town board is in charge of it, and then the town, and I continue to hear different things. So what is the committee in charge of that asked for control of that property?
I understand your confusion. There was originally several years ago, a committee which was appointed to explore the use of the entire property, and then that was disbanded. There is a committee now, the Rush Recreation and Parks Association, which has a stewardship agreement with the town for the 100-acre parcel, which is between the railroad track and the river. The area that we're talking about where the dumping has occurred is between the railroad track and River Road. That currently is being managed by the Rush Town Board. I don't think that's right. I think we should change that in the future, but we've got to figure out where we're going to get it changed. And in the meantime, we've got to take care of things like this dumping to make sure that we don't impede ourselves for future use.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeff, it's Amber. So if I can, I think it was 2 board meetings ago, a resident shared that they had witnessed some dumping piles, shared some pictures at a town board meeting. And at the end of that meeting, asked the town board if anyone would be willing to work with them to see if we could figure out what had happened. So I said, I'd be happy to. So that it's not a committee of a town large project like 1911 or something like that. This was just kind of a spontaneous thing that I said I would help to figure out and facilitate what was going on down there as best as I could and report on it. Does that help? Or did I confuse everyone even more?
No.
Okay.
No, and I understand. So it's a difference between the Rush Recreation and Parks Association to basically the BOCES property.
Mhm.
That's a good way to put it.
Because I hear the 100-acre parcel, and then I guess I've always referred to it as the BOCES property, but then the Rush Riverside Refuge is the BOCES property. Is that? Because
You know, Jeff, it's Amber. I asked that same question when I got newly elected, and our town clerk, she's smiling at me right now. She clarified it for me. So Pam, would you mind clarifying it for all of us so we all hear it again?
I can't remember how exactly I clarified it with you, but
You found it in the minute. You found
It
it,
wasn't,
that the name
right.
officially got changed in the minutes, like, I don't know, years ago.
so
it's not BOCES, right?
yeah, when we needed a name for the BOCES property. So 3 or 4 names were cast in for a vote, and that's how it was named the Rush Riverside Refuge. And that's the 200 acres of the 300 acres, which is considered BOCES. But the other 100 acres is what is taken over or stewardship by the Rush Parks and Rec Association.
okay, all right. Yes, I remember you explaining that, Pam. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Amber.
Anyone else? All right, we can move on to Deputy Supervisor Mozzetti, if you have an update on the comprehensive plan.
Sure, Pam, I just have to reclaim host back so I can share my screen. Okay, where is it? Here it is. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I received this afternoon, and then I sent it out to the town board. So we obviously, everyone has not had an adequate amount of time to review this document. So we can put it back on the agenda whenever the next meeting is, to allow us time to review it. But John Behan from the Behan Group did reach back out to me tonight. And so this was the formal letter that he submitted. Just saying that he's willing to begin this work and it can start in 2 weeks from town approval. Then he also created this document. And you know what, John, now that I see your face on the screen, I forgot to share it with you as well. So I will forward that email to you. Just remind me.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so he has the project overview. And then he's outlined it into different tasks. So task 1, obviously being the public outreach and having some public workshops, having meetings, mailing out surveys, questionnaires. And he outlined all of this. Then he advised as well developing a comprehensive plan advisory committee, which he's recommending 5 to 7 people. I know that, knowing our town and my experience, we might have more than 5 to 7. That's probably what I would lean towards. And then obviously coordination with Todd Ewell and John Mancuso. The next piece in the timeline would be targeting our vision, our goals, and our objectives for what we said, 20 years ago in the original plan, more than 20 years ago, I think 27 years ago. And what are our vision and goals moving forward for the town, including information about solar and farmland protection plan. He outlined all of this. Then he highlighted land use. And then some other elements that he outlined as well. I think if I remember correctly, the planning board did an analysis maybe in the 90s or early 2000s, highlighting some areas that that came out of the original comprehensive plan. So parking, the whole issue, all of the issues that we've historically had in the town, facilities, housing, community development, housing developments, and then developing some priorities from there, implementation, plan update. And I know you guys are all waiting for the final cost, sitting on the edge of your seat, and here it is. So he is estimating 9 to 12 months, which is about a year, and then the lump sum of 75,000. So that is quite a big chunk of change.
I have two questions. One, didn't this fellow just within the past year do update Henrietta's plan?
Correct. And he, a very similar, timeline, getting community feedback, holding some workshops, doing surveys and data analysis, sending out that information, then collecting all of the data, interpreting the data, then putting the plan together. That's kind of the generic comprehensive plan, like flow chart or timeline. But yes, he did Henrietta's. And he's out of Albany, Saratoga Springs area, but he's done other small towns. I want to say he's done Riga, Sweden, Ogden. So he is familiar with our area and familiar with some of our nuances of a small town.
And my second question is, I seem to remember Gary Abraham suggesting some pointed updates to the comprehensive plan. Is it possible, or let me ask, have you talked to this fellow about that? And what kind of a reaction did you get?
Jerry, I think you know me by now. Of course I did.
I just
yes.
want to lead into it, that's all.
Yes, so John Behan is very familiar with the questions, concerns, comments, suggestions from the attorney Gary Abraham. That information was shared with John as well, John Behan as well, to help understand what our town is facing in the future and how that relates to developing and creating a comprehensive plan.
Okay, anyone else want to comment on this? I guess not, so we'll move on to the camera evaluation. And
So-
that will,
Just to wrap it up, I'd like to give the town board members, adequate time to review this. I think the next town board meeting's the 28th, so maybe we could keep it back on the agenda and have another dialogue and another conversation about it and see how we could move forward and continue the trajectory of moving forward with updating this.
I think that's a good idea. Let us absorb it.
Oh, yes. All right, moving right along to the web cameras. So as everybody in the audience is well aware, we're in a pandemic and we are stuck on Zoom. So when and if the governor does let us come back to real life, we as a town board have brainstormed many different ideas to have a greater, broader community outreach through web cameras. So the intent would be that, I'm just going to mute you, John Morelli. The intent would be that there's a camera in the boardroom somewhere. It would project onto the table where we are all sitting, and it would record the meeting for live streaming up to YouTube, but to have a recording for people to watch it at home while we're in real life at the board meeting. There's a disclaimer on the top of this when I made this cost benefit sheet that I am not a web camera expert. So if anyone else would love to reach out to me, if with any experience, I'd be happy to take it. I did connect with a couple residents who have experience with web cameras and they provided me some input. So I did some research and okay, so I mean, this is the cheapest option, $30, super cheap. We'd still need a computer in the back of the room, and as everybody knows, those are a hot commodity these days. So the way that I created this chart, and I shared it with everybody again, I mean, these are like the cheapo models, the cheapo to get us by models. All of them are either on Amazon or directly through the supplier, Logitech or Microsoft, or there's a couple other companies. This Microsoft Life camera is $90, so it's not like the bargain one. And a resident let me know that the Microsoft Life camera is a very good option, cost effective, and should have a wide enough view. So that's really what I was also looking for in some of these devices is the view. Oops, hang on. Can you guys, what are you seeing on my screen now?
Logitech, $300.
Okay. So hang on, let me find your heads again. So the camera needs to have a wide enough angle for it to see everywhere from the podium to where Pam sits or where Pam used to sit. So that is really a deciding factor in a device. So this, hang on, I gotta move your heads out of my way. This Microsoft Life camera definitely had good reviews and was capable of doing that. And again, with all of these, we could try it, plug it in, and see if it works, test it out like we've had to do with anything. This other one is $300, and this was also recommended to me by another resident. And this is, I don't want to waste any more time, but everyone has access to click on this spec sheet. Oh, it didn't work. All right. So we could look at that option. So then these are the more expensive ones. This conference room camera kind of sits, but then you need 2 USB ports. And I don't know if we would have all of that access with the limited technology resources that we do have. These last 3 or 4 were the most expensive options. Again, this would have to sit on a table. The thing that was not ideal about this next Meetup HD one is that it can't be connected to a TV. So back when we were in real life, there were certain times when we wanted to hook up to that TV in the corner to project something, to show a video, to show a map. So I'd be hesitant to purchase this one because I would want to have that option to project it onto a screen or TV if we ever needed to. I'd like to have a device that is a little bit more well-rounded. This Meetup one. And this last one is of course my favorite one because it's the most expensive, of course. This owl, you'd have to watch like a simulation video on it, but it literally just rotates around the whole room. So it would get everybody. You know, if we set it up in the front, it would have a 360 camera view. I'm not sure that we need that, but it would be a dream to have that. So I created this document. Maybe it could be shared with the public on the website. I don't know if that's a possibility, or if anybody wants a copy of it, I can email it to them. But I think that this is the direction that we could be headed when and if we go back to real life.
And just to make sure we're all on the same page, one of these devices is what will enable us to continue to broadcast to people in their homes or businesses or wherever they are while we are present in the town hall at the town board meeting.
So that's what I don't know about. That's because right now someone would have to man this device to say, okay, Jeff Werner, you're at home, but we're all sitting here. Let me reach out to Jeff and see if he wants to talk. So there'd have to be like a two-way dialogue for the people at home and for the people that are sitting in the boardroom. And I can't figure out logistically how that would work unless there's like a cameraman or somebody sitting in the back of the room with the computer, with the device, that can say, all right, Jeff Werner just wanted to speak. Let me put him in here. Can everybody see him on the camera? I am absolutely open to suggestions. If anybody has any tech knowledge above and beyond what I've been able to explain. And I think it would be a lot of trial and error, just like Zoom was. Zoom was a lot of trial and error. It was a lot of spreadsheets. It was a lot of teamwork and coordination of making sure that, we had the right resources to help support our residents, and who needed what device, who needed this device. I think Amber purchased about 3 different pairs of headsets that we all tried and didn't try, and returned them and didn't return them. So I have a feeling, because I'm not an expert on this, that it'll be a little bit of a trial and error of what works and what doesn't work, and a huge learning curve.
So that's something that you can look into, or hope somebody contacts you to help you with that.
Yeah, I can definitely continue to do the research. And there have been some residents that have reached out to me and said that they would be happy to be on my trial and error committee, I guess, if that's what we want to call it, help plug in, help run a couple samples. So I think that unless anybody has a better, brilliant, more technologically savvy idea and has connections to hire a cameraman and a TV producer, then I'm all out of ideas.
Okay, well, we will be revisiting this subject.
Okay. Some next steps, because I'm seeing my light flashing for the chat. It seems like people have some questions. I don't know if they have web camera questions that you want to entertain right now, or if you want to wait until the public comment period.
We will wait till the public comment period because we've still got another category of business to go through.
Okay,
Not much,
so,
but it's there.
all right. I will make note of all of the people in the chat that you'll all have a chance to speak at the public comment period. Deb Cusey, Jean Morelli, John Morelli, Marianne Rizzo. Pam asked if the security camera in the boardroom has the options to do that. I don't know. So we will move on, and I will add all of these people to the public comment period. Again, everybody has my cell phone number. If you need it, have suggestions, feel free to reach out, and you all have my email address. Feel free to reach out if you're an expert in any of this as we continue to move forward. The governor, John Mancuso, correct me if I'm wrong, but the governor extended this through November 3rd. So it's a waiting game for all of us to see what will happen after November 3rd, if we will be back in real life.
I predict he'll extend it beyond that. But I'm not a successful bettor, so. Okay, thank you very much. Councilman Woolaver, I think you already reported on 1911, so you got a second chance to say something here, or just pass?
I'll just pass. I think I already said what I needed to say about the building,
Thank you very much.
the committee.
We'll get into new business. We have a maintenance,
Jerry, we couldn't hear you. You have to talk into the screen again.
I'm sorry.
It's
We have
okay.
a proposal for a maintenance agreement with Penn Power Systems. They did a annual maintenance on our town hall generator in August, and they found several things that would not ensure the operation of it through the winter months. So they are proposing that they come and make the repairs. And the repairs are going to amount to $1,750, I think it is. I had it someplace.
I think Supervisor, I have 1730 on my paperwork. I don't know. Does that sound right, what everyone else has?
Yes,
You
that's
were
correct.
close.
I was close. I wanted to err
You
on
were
the
very
high side.
close.
So I think that we should have this done because they are the experts in the operation of this equipment. And I would hate to get into a January blizzard and not have it fire up.
I agree.
I agree.
So. Does anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the critical to operation services of Penn Power System to remove and replace the burned out block heater, heater hoses, upper and lower radiator hoses, replace thermostat and coolant for the town hall generator. Town hall 70 kilowatt located at 5977 East Henrietta Road in the amount of $1,730.
I'll second that motion.
Councilman Wilver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor QC,
Aye. Number 2 under new business. Oh my goodness gracious, has this taken a long time to get to, but we are here. And I have to thank our attorney, John Mancuso, for making sure that everything is legally perfect. Our town engineer, Todd Yule, for making sure everything is engineering perfect. And oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing this tonight, but we're going to approve the RFP for soliciting bids. John Mancuso, would you like to add anything to that?
You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes, Supervisor, if I can say a couple of things. As you mentioned, working with the town engineer, we have updated all of the documents to reflect a scope of work consistent with QPK's architectural plans. So all of that's been incorporated into these documents. The only thing left for the town board to discuss tonight is timing, both for commencement and completion of the project, and then the schedule for publication and deadline for bid submissions. So I know in seeing the recommendations of the town engineer, it looked like a 3-month project is what they were targeting, and so we would need to discuss sort of the outer date of project completion from the town's standpoint, and then sort of then back into the advertising, which needs to be on 5 days notice, and then the amount of time you want to give people to submit the bids, and then when you want to open them and make a decision.
Any comments?
John, so what Todd said, the 3-month, everything you said after that, that's all part of that 3-month process? You said 3 months and then you said multiple things after that. So that all takes place during those 3 months?
So now basically the date that the town selects the winning bid, that's the first day. And then 3 months from then would be, and I believe anticipated project completion based on what Todd was explaining from a construction standpoint, it will take that long to finish this project. The other nuance to the timeline, which is in the documents, is that the town engineer indicated to specify that the expectation would be that the library roof component of that timeline would be done in the first 30 days. The idea being that they would try to get that torn off and replaced before the dead of winter, to be able to then do all the rest of the work with the roof at least in place before it got the weather turned.
All right, thank you.
Does anyone else have a question or a comment? I guess not. So we can go ahead and establish the dates that are required for the RFP package.
So I guess I'll ask the town clerk first, from an advertising perspective, what are we looking at for getting into the paper and then anticipating sufficient time to get the bids into the town to then have them, the town board then open them? Are we looking at the next meeting or 2 meetings from now? I think you just muted yourself, Pam.
We'd have to do it for 2 meetings from now, just to, so I can get it in the paper. And then how long do you let it slide? Is there a window that you have to make it available?
So
Go ahead.
I can answer that one. So there's a legal component and then there's the practical reality, which is, choosing enough time to actually get enough bids in. From the legal standpoint, the advertisement for the bids needs to be at least 5 days between the first publication and the date that the bids will be publicly opened and read. So very short turnaround can be done. But I'll defer a little bit to the town board in terms of your thoughts about whether that's a too aggressive of a timeline to get bids in. You may need to provide a little bit more time to get some meaningful feedback.
I think it's going to take a little bit of time.
Before anybody says anything, make sure you consider the season we're in and headed for. I should share with you that QPK is certain that the exterior work can be done before the real inclement weather sets in. And then the interior work can be done to finish up the project. So if you wanted to comment with that in mind, have at it, please.
I think we should have it out there long enough to get a good number of bids on it. A lot of companies are really busy right now, especially going into this season with a roof.
I agree.
I'm just
It's
trying to
30
understand
days.
the timeline, so. No, Dan, I agree. I want to hear what you have to say timeline wise, so thank you.
Is 30 days out there for the bid too long or too short?
I wouldn't want to go any longer than that, but I think 30 days is reasonable.
That would probably place us at the November 10th town board meeting, which is 26 days?
Yeah.
So if we advertise in anticipation of opening the bids at the November 10th meeting and selecting someone, then I guess November 10th, going 90 days from then would be December, January, February. By February 2021, project completion with the roof replacement being done between November 10th and December 15th-ish, December 10th, that 30-day window.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. I agree.
So do I.
So then I can fill in those dates into the bid package before it's disseminated. In reading the seal builder, so the town of Rush Town Hall received the clerk until. So the cutoff date for bid receipt, Pam, would you then want to have that date the morning of that meeting so that they could be assembled and.
Yeah, if they have to be in by 11 o'clock November 10th and then have the opening at 1 o'clock so I could prepare and get a chart for the town board for that evening to look at.
Who has to be there when they're opened?
That's up to us.
That'll be accessed via Zoom then. So we'll have a link available for the public opening of bids since under COVID, that's also been extended. The public bidding requirements for review can be done via Zoom as well. So we would, if we want to have it opened at that time, then we'll specify that and provide the appropriate notification.
Attorney Mancuso, is that something that has to be a public open meeting, correct? When you're
Yeah, I
opening the
think
bids or no?
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think so. Pam, do we want to hold that as a separate one or do that as part of the regular meeting that night? I mean, we could do it either way. We could notice it separately to have that separate component be just that one match.
I just want to clarify that Councilman Woliver and I have day jobs. So I don't know if, right, Dan? I don't know if I can
Do
make
all
a 1
board
o'clock.
members have to be present?
I'll
Do you
check.
trust us?
Got to be 3 of us for an open meetings law, right?
Well, yeah, for it to be a meeting, I think I may have misunderstood the question then. I thought the question was, should we have a meeting to open the bids? Is the question whether or not the supervisor would be opening them at that hour and we would be providing the information? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think so. I think Councilwoman Corbin is just asking if everybody has to be there, but I don't believe that's true. I think if the supervisor's there, because I have to open them, timestamp them. So it's just a opening. The public can be there. And usually the contractors may be there.
Okay.
Sorry, I misunderstood the question, but yes. So we can do that.
Then on top of that, the board has to be engaged to accept the bid. The opening is one event, and then selection of the bid is the second event. And that one, the board members would have to be at.
Yep.
So we'll do that night then.
That'll work.
So November 10th is a Tuesday.
That's when the board meeting is.
Oh, because of Veterans Day. I learned that. I did learn that, correct. So public Tuesday there, November 10th. Or what was the date again? Yes.
That's right.
Because Veterans Day. Understood. Is that Wednesday?
So we're gonna have them in by
Right.
11 and then open them at the board meeting itself,
Yes.
correct?
Well, hang on. Let me hear. What I thought I heard say was, and clarify, is that the supervisor and you were going to open them, timestamp them by a certain date, and then the board would discuss it that night at the board meeting.
Correct.
What did you hear, Pam? And
Okay, I thought that's what I said, but then I thought Jerry contradicted and said something different.
No, I agree with you. The only thing I would add to that is that night, the board would select the winning bidder.
Okay, so 11 o'clock, the bids are due. 1 o'clock, Jerry and I will open them. I'll put them together so that they'll have them at the board meeting for all of you to review. Yes?
Very good.
I understand.
Okay.
Does anyone have any opinion as to how we go about soliciting these bids? Now, my thought is that we notify the builders exchange, give them a bid package and let them advertise within their membership. Another way we could do is if anybody knows any competent contractor who could take on a scope of work such as this, we could contact them. I don't think that would be out of line, John.
Nope. That's fine. Not a problem.
All the above.
I agree, all of the above, absolutely.
Jerry, who takes that task on of notifying the Builders Exchange and
I will do that.
that? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Supervisor QC, could I ask a question?
You most certainly can.
All right, I'm going to direct the question towards Councilman Williver. And I know this has been a lengthy process. And Dan, I've heard just what you said a few minutes ago about contractors being very busy and booked multiple months ahead. Is it realistic to think that a contractor is going to drop what they're doing and pick up this project in end of November or December and have it done in 90 days, like the attorney is saying that it needs to be done in?
Be tight. That's why we should get as many bids as possible. We might find that with those constraints, we might not get a lot of response.
So would it be wise to consider Plan B for time extensions or something currently at this time? Because otherwise you got to go back and start the whole process all over again.
Jeff, we may end up having to do that, although that is probably not, it's not on the front burner. I think the responses we get to the RFP will determine whether or not we've got to do that.
Okay, and you can decide that when you open them and then go make a decision at that point.
Well, it could be made, yes, but it might even be before that point if we don't get any responses.
And will the roof make it through the winter?
Considering the fact that it's going to be removed, I think it will. What we might end up doing is having some temporary protection put on it to get it through the winter. But I think, there's a lot of variables here, like what's the winter going to be, the severity of it, what's the snow load going to be, the severity of it, the temperatures, a lot of unknowns.
I understand, listening to Attorney Mancuso, a 90-day time frame. I guess from what I'm hearing of contractors out there, I think I'd be very surprised if you got a contractor that could do it within 90 days. So, all right, that's all, I guess. So you'll, as a board, you'll make that decision as you see if the bids come back in or when you open the bids at the November 12th meeting.
The roof itself could be done in a couple of days with a crew. I mean, and then the inside is inside. Replacing the roof isn't that big of a deal.
Okay. Unless they find unknowns, which has been talked about all along, once they start removing the shingles and part of the roof.
That certainly is an unknown, Jeff, and that's certainly something we're going to have to react to if that turns out that way.
Okay. Sorry, I butted in there, but I just thought the 90 days didn't seem, I guess, with what I'm hearing of contractors, I would be surprised if you got somebody. But let's hope. Let's stay positive, right?
Think positive. You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could clarify, I didn't mean to suggest that my opinion was that this had to be a 90-day turnaround. That was just what the town engineer indicated, that a normal timeline for project completion would be that 90 days. And so that was just the number that he had recommended in terms of putting in the bid proposal. But obviously this is all subject to what the town board believes would be reasonable given, construction constraints and the weather.
Anything else? Okay, Pam or John, you have documented the dates that we've established. And we can put in the bid package. I will call Builders Exchange and make sure they're awaiting the package.
Good.
Do we need a formal resolution to do this step that we are embarking on at this moment at 8:41 p.m.?
I
Yes.
think we do.
And I am in the process of revising one of the paragraphs to reflect the discussion that was had this evening. And I should be done in about a minute. Do you have the draft? Who is preparing to introduce the draft that I had circulated earlier?
I have it in front of me. I don't know if anyone else does.
I don't.
The only paragraph, Councilwoman Corbin, that I am altering is the fourth paragraph, because that is containing the date, and then I just have to tweak the method of opening since it was generically provided for a town board meeting, but we're going to change it to designation of the town supervisor and town clerk for 1 o'clock on November 10th. Is that right, Pam? Did I get that right? Okay.
So the fourth paragraph you want at the town of Rush on November 10th?
I'm actually, I will, I'm typing it and revising it now, and I will,
right.
I can read, do you want me to read that once you get to that fourth paragraph, Councilwoman Corbin?
Whatever works is fine with me. Absolutely.
I can just read you want me to read the whole resolution? And then someone can move that resolution and seconded it? Would that be easier?
That'd be wonderful. That's fine with me. Absolutely. I'll come
I
back
will
to
do
my
that.
Zoom meeting.
Okay. All right, resolution. Whereas the town seeks to solicit formal bids from contractors for roof replacement and associated infrastructure repairs and improvements to be conducted at the Rush Town Hall and Rush Public Library located 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York 14543. Hereafter, the Rush Town Hall and Rush Library. And whereas the governor of New York State issued Executive Order 202.11 is extended to November 3rd, 2020 by Executive Order 202.67, which provides for non-public opening of bids, provided, however, that where practicable, public entities shall record or live stream bid openings so that the public has the opportunity to view such bid openings. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town clerk is authorized to advertise for formal bids for the roof replacement and associated infrastructure repairs and improvements at the Rush Town Hall and Rush Library. And be it further resolved that bids that are received will be opened by the town supervisor and town clerk by designation of the town board as authorized under general municipal law on November 10th, 2020 at 1 p.m., which may be accessed via Zoom as provided on the Town of Rush website, www.townofrush.com. The adoption of the foregoing resolution was moved by.
Go for it, Supervisor.
Okay,
Seconded by.
I'll second it.
Town clerk, can you poll the board?
Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
aye.
So with that, I will add the date into the bid document and I will deliver all of those materials to the town clerk tomorrow for the publication to be in.
Wonderful.
Very good.
Wow. This is good. All right, so we can move on to new business item number 4, where we want to make sure you're aware that town board will meet October 28th, November 10th, November 24th, all Tuesdays. Planning Board, October 20th and November 17th. Zoning Board, November 12th. Conservation Board, November 5th. And you've already been notified that the governor's executive order was extended through November 3rd. I suspect it's going to be extended beyond that, and you will be informed by our website if it is or is not.
Supervisor
right.
QC is, do you have one more resolution prepared by Attorney Mancuso?
Yes.
I
Thank
have it. I have it, Town Clerk, if
Oh,
anyone
great.
needs me to read that.
And if I could just, I'll introduce it because it was a late addition. Per earlier conversations with the town supervisor, under the New York town law, in order for the town attorney to provide training to the planning and zoning boards so they can get their credit hours in, it requires a resolution of the town board. And so with that, the supervisor had asked to authorize that so that those hours can count towards 4 hours a year.
Amber, do you have the resolution to read?
Yeah, yes, I do. I'll be happy to read it.
Please.
I so move pursuant to New York Town Law, Section 267, 7-A and 27, 7-A to approve Weaver, Mancuso, Brightman, PLLC as attorneys for the town to provide training to the Town Zoning Board of Appeals and Town Planning Board in order for the members of the boards to meet the training requirements of the New York Town Law, and to ratify and approve the prior training provided by the attorneys for the town to the Town Zoning Board of Appeals during the year 2020 towards the training requirements of the town law. Could I have a second?
I
I'll
second.
it.
You got 2 seconds.
Yeah,
That's a
who was
whole.
that?
I
Councilman
think
Wel-
Councilman Welliver was first. Yeah, he was
Okay.
that. He beat
Councilman
you by
Welliver?
a fraction of a
Aye.
second.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye. All right, that will move us into the second public comment session. I want to remind you that this is where you can interface with any one of us. This is where I ask you to be courteous of the other attendees and to be nice. Thank you. Who do we have who wants to speak?
All right, so Deb QC is first. I'm going to read everybody in case my internet goes out again. So it's Deb QC, Jean Morelli, John Morelli, Marianne Rizzo, Pamela Busey, if you wanted to talk about the security camera.
I don't need to.
And okay, then it goes to Catherine Hankins, then Dave Slabersky. If you could, when you unmute yourself, if you could share your video and unmute yourself, say your name and your address for the town clerk. So Deb QC, you are up.
Hey, everybody, it's Deb Cusey from 55 Russell Road, West Rush, New York. That's a tongue twister. I just have 3 things. I have a comment around 1911, the town team approach, and transparency. So Dan, thank you very much for leading the team on 1911. I had the opportunity to participate very early on. And my only suggestion, I really like that idea about the survey that you suggested. My only suggestion would be to somehow, when you suggest things like, oh, if you want an athletic facility, are you willing to pay for $1 million or 500,000 or whatever? Somehow put some dollar limits on that, because when I was on the committee, of course, everyone would love all kinds of stuff, but, you know, try to put some parameters around it to make your survey more meaningful, because everyone wants, a wonderful wish list, but, we can't afford it. So that would be my only suggestion. I think that's a great idea to incorporate more input into, the desire of the town. The next thing is the team approach. Jerry, Town, I really like the fact that you continue to open up the collaborative approach of the meetings. And the only thing that puzzles me, though, is that the agenda topics that are on for tonight, like the library or the highway or whatever, or the assessor, why aren't the people that are representing these departments on this call? I find it to be very effective, hearing from the citizens, hearing the citizens like Jeff speak up and allowing Jeff and others to speak up. Why aren't the other town board members responsible for these departments part of this conversation from a collaborative approach? If you're going to be effective, I don't understand why they're not here participating in this collaborative discussion. And then thirdly, Dan, I really appreciate your willingness to provide the transparency. And to build on Jean Morelli's comment, I think a better way for me to express my desire is a cash disbursements plan. To build on what Jeff was saying around how are we managing this contingency? How are we planning capital budgeting? How are we planning cash flow? So I would like to see more transparency on cash management and capital budget, as several of the people said or mentioned tonight. And again, I want to applaud the way in which we're collaborating and talking, and Jerry, for you to open it up to allow other people to talk beyond the first period and third period and interject in the public comment period. I just think it's much more, we're just resolving things more quickly. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it is now Jean Morelli, and I see that Dave Silversky joined, and I hope he has good technology news for me at the end. So Jean Morelli, you are up.
Hi, thank you. I already spoke during the budget hearing. That's when I wanted to talk and I was allowed to. So thank you. We'll move on.
That was quick and easy. All right, John
Jean.
Morelli.
Jean, I always enjoy what you have to say. You're not going to stop there, are you?
You really want to answer that? We need to extend the town hall meeting. Just kidding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is John Morelli. I live at 535 Five Points Road, but my comment is derived not only as a resident, but also as deputy chair of the planning board. And this is regarding the effort to update the comprehensive master plan. I used the chat function earlier to request permission to speak, but I don't think it was seen. So I was not recognized at that time. I have to say, I'm very concerned to hear about the progress concerning the comprehensive master plan and to learn that there is in fact an actual consultant proposal being considered. As a member of the planning board, I could tell you that we are a body that is, and that should be, significantly governed by the comprehensive master plan. But we've not been included in the formulation of the approach to updating this plan. And I'm concerned because it really is the planning board that knows better than anyone what the trials and tribulations have been and what is essential for a plan that will actually be able to work and best serve the town. It's troubling that it appears to me that this is being done in what I would define as somewhat of a vacuum without this experience and without this expertise of those who know the best issues and concerns. So I therefore suggest that the town board give some serious consideration to beginning the process again, and this time including the planning board in the process. Our current interests have been ignored in this concern, and I believe there may be other boards that have similar concerns and interests. Thank you.
Jerry,
Victoria?
is this when we respond, or is this the one that we don't respond?
This is where we respond. Would you like to?
I would be honored. John, my sincerest apologies. I was not aware that the planning board, I know that we've spoke way back in like January and February, and I've received all of the documentation that you've submitted either to Jerry or myself. So I am sorry if it appears as though I did not include the planning board or you specifically in the seeking out of a consultant. So thank you for that. And I apologize. I will definitely keep you in the loop from here on out. And I can share with you those documents that John Behan provided with me this evening. Everything that you have shared with me about the planning board updates and like the initiative areas and the top priority areas, that has been shared with him as well. So I will continue to keep you in the loop and keep you an informed resident and also an informed planning board chair.
Okay, well, two things. One is all those materials I gave you were from 2004, from earlier on. It wasn't our current thinking. It was just to give you an idea of the kind of stuff we've been facing. Secondly, in terms of being involved, I would love to be involved, but I think it's a call that needs to go to the plan. I mean, I think the planning board needs to discuss how they would like to be representative. I mean, John Felsen was seriously involved in the last planning, comprehensive planning. So, I mean, I don't know how we do it, is if it's something we'd be interested in giving you opinions along the way, or whether one of us would participate. I'm not sure. I don't want to dictate that for the planning board, but yeah, I think it'd be a good thing.
Should we put that on the agenda for a planning board discussion? When do you guys meet next? I don't have it. Is it
20th, October 20th.
Yeah. So do you want to put it on the agenda next week to have that discussion?
Well, I don't put anything on our agenda. I'll suggest it to John Felsen.
Okay.
Okay, and is that okay, Pam? You're smiling.
You're absolutely correct, Ms. Morelli.
About not putting anything on the agenda, right?
Well, yeah, because the chair does that.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Thank you.
I will ask Pam and John to consider.
Thank you, John.
Then John, can you follow back up with me so that I am prepared for Tuesday night?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Are you done, John?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's all I
It's
have.
okay. All right. Next is Mary Ann Rizzo.
I think she was there and she's gone, so. she
All
might-
right, I will
internet.
keep an eye out for her to come back. Mary Ann, it looks like Catherine Hankins. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Okay, Catherine Hankins, 2353 Pinnacle Road. So I have a couple things, but primarily the comprehensive plan. At our last meeting, it was brought up that if it exceeded a certain amount of money, we would have to go and get bids. And to me, it's shocking to think of $90,000 to update our comprehensive plan. I think that there has been a $20,000 charrette to look at the hamlet, which brought out a lot of information. There was a $25,000 farmland preservation grant that we got that really looked at some of the most critical issues that our town faces. There also is a real concern that we're pulling a consultant from outside our area. Well, they helped in Henrietta, and sometimes it's really good to get information from outside. I think we should really be cautious to go to a comprehensive plan that is almost a menu that is, or an outline that is very, very tight and brings us right back to the beginning, where I think it falls with what John Morelli's saying. There has been a lot of homework that's already been done by the planning board. There also has been a lot of work that was done by the Recreation and Agricultural Citizens Committee. A lot of work that was done by the Energy Advisory Committee. And those pieces could really help us focus our attention, very similar to what John Mancuso cautioned us last time, or maybe it was Todd, I don't remember, but to say that we may not need to revisit everything for our town, because that comprehensive plan, some people haven't even wanted to touch it because it has such rich understanding of some of our longstanding commitments. So I would like to suggest that we go with what Dan is suggesting for just the 1911 house, to expand that to see that it's the questions that Deborah Cousey's raising. If I say I want a recreation center, but I'm not willing to spend $2 million, I'd like to have the Rush Recreation Park Association become, have a grant of $1 million to fix up the Rush Riverside Refuge. So it's those questions of where does the money come from and what are our priorities? If I want affordable housing, am I ready to have sewers? So we need a rich survey to our constituents in this town to say, these have been longstanding concerns. And then in terms of how we engage and reach our community, I was going to just speak to say, I'm encouraging everybody to fill out the website update survey. It's been posted on the newsletter, and just what Dan said, very few people read that newsletter. So I reached out to Carol Barnett today to put it on her email list, and I got 30 responses. And over the next week, I'm going to reach out to the seniors and see if I can put it on their network. We have some networks around town, and we only have about 1,200 households. We can move quickly and focus in on the areas that have been raised for the last 5 years. What do we want to do to protect our rural landscape? We have serious questions, and they were raised by all of those groups and committees. We do not have to go back and start from day one. So I really do not want to see us spending $90,000 on a comprehensive plan revisit. I hope we can do it with a much shorter, more engaging, and less costly effort. And certainly with a scope that is really, really supported by the planning board that really launched the last initiative. And I think we could do it faster and more effective and not be divisive. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
All right, I
It's
see
Amber.
Marianne
Before
Rizzo.
Marianne, Victoria, before she pops on, I just want to encourage everyone. As Catherine said, she's done a great survey for updating the town website, and she needs that input. We all need that input. So please just take a few minutes, go on the town website, and fill in what she has put together. So thank you.
All righty, Marianne, are you there?
I am here now again. Marianne Rizzo, 25 Stoll Road. I started out on the phone, and then I got onto Zoom, and now I'm back on the phone because I lost my connection. So let's see. Let's start with I like Deb Cousey's suggestion about being survey specific, because I think if you put in there, like what I think Catherine, I caught the last bit of what you were saying. If you put in there that who wants a rec center, hey, everybody, it's a pie in the sky. Yeah, we want a lot of things, but it's going to cost. So I think it's going to be important to be a little specific about that. And I went to the Livingston County History Museum, and I should have known about it. It's in Geneseo. I assume many of you know about it. It's on Center Street. And I really enjoyed myself there. It's a small museum, and it got me thinking about the 1911 property and how nice it would be for our artifacts to be put there or somewhere where it's accessible, and it becomes really something that we, honoring our history through a place that is well-known and people come there and people feel good about donating their belongings that they, you know, I have a couple things that I got in my barn. Maybe I'll give those if there's a good spot for them, you know, feel good about that. So I encourage everyone to visit the Livingston County History Museum. I'm kind of curious as to how many of you have gone there. So, and thinking about the 1911 property, that it would be nice if it was part of historical society and a museum as well. So in terms of the residents, so here's another topic. In terms of the residents integrating their comments during the board meeting and not just in the public comment period, I just think we should decide one way or another and just be consistent with that. So I thought that it really wasn't, I thought Jeff had a lot of good comments today, and it was really good to hear them then. But I'm just not sure how we want to go, but I think it'd be difficult to have a lot of comments interjected into the mainstream of the town business. So it just, whatever y'all decide, I think you should just be consistent with it, come up with a decision. And so that's that. And then on the dumping issue, yeah, I'm very disappointed that there were a lot of things that went into the dump. And those of you who were here for when I had my comments and pictures about it, there were, you know, some very disturbing things that went into the pond. And now there's soil that's sitting there with rocks that are staged to go in. And when I actually reported it, there were 16 piles, and now there's about 32 piles. I was just so surprised to go there last week and see that. So, but I think Mark needs a staging area. It sounds like he needs a staging area somewhere to put things before, and it's good that others are going to need some of these things. And certainly the things that are landfill worthy need to go into a landfill. So maybe we have to really listen to what Mark needs and try to figure that out. But I really don't think it should be in a park or in the refuge. But really why I signed up I wanted to say about the cameras. I just think you should get a very good high quality camera. And I wouldn't skimp there. So, and thank you for your work on that, Victoria. And thank you also for your work on so far on the comprehensive plan. So that's really why I wanted to speak. And is there anybody else that started to shudder when you heard the price tag of $75,000 plus $15,000 for this task to be completed? And that's not even to mention all the contributions for the community members that will join in. And so, I mean, so that's 75 and 15, $90,000. That's more than any one of our town employees makes in a whole year on their salary. And I mean, and the town board members make such little amount. And the gardeners this year, they worked over 500 hours, and they saved the town just $5,000. And to spend it so quickly on something like this, so and then I say, well, okay, well, all right, then how do we solve? What's Plan B? Well, I don't have Plan B, but maybe we can come up with a Plan B, and maybe it might involve just a small. I like the concept that we came up with recently of the task force of maybe 3-4 people, including planning board members or all of them or a member, and maybe just coming up with a framework. And if we need to hire a facilitator, we can kind of estimate the facilitator could, have an hourly rate. At first I thought it was going to cost us $10,000 for this, and I thought that was a lot of money, because I think we've got a lot of smart people in our community. Maybe we need a facilitator, but certainly I don't think we should spend any more than $5,000-6,000, and really try to look at maybe from the viewpoint of what are some things we can all agree on that are good in the comprehensive plan, and then decide on what needs to change. And so anyway, let's figure out, maybe with a small task force, a better way to do this. Thank you.
Mary Ann, this is Jerry. I am still shaking. You probably knew that, but I also wanted to inform you that The budget hearing was a public hearing tonight, and residents are allowed to speak in a public hearing. And Mr. Werner was not out of order. He spoke in the public hearing as anyone else had the right to do. I hope that helps.
No, I understand that, Jerry.
Good, thank you.
All righty. Dave and then Jeff Werner wanted to speak again. Deb, you were after Catherine, but I don't know if you wanted to speak again, or if you just wrote that twice. All right, Dave, it's all you.
Okay.
Hoping you have some good news for me.
Yeah. Dave Slaversky, 69 Rush, West Rush Road. Yeah, comments about the whole town board meeting, streaming it and watching that type of thing. For those that don't know, I worked at XXI for 25 years, was part of the team there, and did a $12 million build up. I teach all the audio courses for the School of Film and Animation at RIT, a little dry right now, and was part of the design team for the Magic Spell Studio, but more importantly, worked with integrators. And so here, when what you were talking about is, what needs to be seen at a town hall. If you have, you want to project some video or some pictures or documents, how well is that going to be seen or picked up? You mentioned two-way interactive. This then turns into a mini broadcast, where actually the most important part of that is actually the audio, where you start getting into the feedback and how does all this work, and you're broadcasting in the room. Zoom and Skype kind of does this a little bit for this one-to-one thing, and they've actually, it's kind of a technical marvel at some points. So my suggestions would be, look at what other places are doing and see the content, because you want to engage your audience. And let's face it, I've been at hundreds of these in the past, and most town board meetings are pretty dry. And you don't want.
I thought I added great personality to them this year.
Okay. Yes. No. But what I'm saying is, usually to make it go downhill faster, we want to be able to see and at least hear. Hearing is actually more important.
Yeah.
So, you got questions about lighting and things like that. And so, yeah, a little bit of engagement in the audience. And I'm just looking at my notes, what I wrote on the fly here. So I wouldn't spend any more time yourself on what you research, because those are like super Band-Aid modes. That's kind of like a fly on a wall. I'm watching what's happening in this meeting.
Yeah.
And you're talking bandwidth. So I can send you a couple of things and ideas, like companies, like we worked with AV Core at Rochester and some other ones, to kind of develop better questions. You need a sheet of what do you want to see, what do you want accomplished, which will help. And then you'll start getting, ideas on scaled versions of what to make it work for you. And then you also, you would always be locked in the town hall. But I don't think you're ever going to touch this under, any decent quality to do all these things under, $5,000 to $8,000, $10,000. This isn't a cheap thing to do.
I know.
But you don't know till you start talking and asking and questioning. So if you want some ideas from me, I can do that. My expertise is capturing it, producing it, delivering it, but not actually building something like this, even though I had thousands of live remotes. So there's my offer.
Thank you so much. Anything would be very helpful. I think what we're running into, Pam did a little bit of research months ago about what other towns are doing. And one thing that we're running into is space and COVID capacity. So other buildings have more space to be 6 feet apart, socially distanced and masked and broadcast, and they're broadcasting through Facebook Live. I'm not going to touch Facebook with the 10-foot pole. So I'm not going there. And so that's what other towns are doing. And Pam's also researched other towns, and they have like TV stations. And
well, that's it. And that's just it. You can go from one extreme to the next. And, if anything you can do to try to have it automated, because what's happening is the place gets installed. It's like, here's all the shot sheet, here's all the gizmos. And then next thing you know, who's in there when you got to turn it on and something doesn't work.
Exactly.
There's always going to be that. But yeah, you need a starting point. So it's not an easy thing. It's very complex, actually.
Jerry gave me all the hard jobs.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, you're
Thank you,
welcome.
Dave. I appreciate it very much. You ready, Jeff?
Ready.
All right, just say your address, your name and address again for the record, please.
So Jeff Warner, 8427 West Henrietta Road, Rush, New York. Comments that I'd like to share with the board here at the end is on the comprehensive master plan update, which I actually was part of way back when. And previous speakers spoke about we need to move quickly and faster and more efficient. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I believe that's nothing more than an agenda of what I've seen the last few years. I'd like to go 40 years ago when my father looked at this farm and we put a purchase offer in. My father said to me, he says, one of these days, he said, there's going to be issues in the town of Rush. He said, because in our area, you can only build 3 ways around Rochester. He says, until they figure out how to build on Lake Ontario. He says, you're going to see development pressure. And we have seen some development pressure. The road frontage has been stripped off of a lot of roads over the past 25 years, 30 years in this town by developers. And I feel that's done nothing but cause issues for the landowners with the surrounding land, because those NIMBY homeowners feel as though they own the view, which they do not. And so going forth with this plan, yes, the planning board needs to be involved, but the planning board is only there to enforce the code. They're not there to write the code. It's up to the town board and the good people of this town to decide where we want to head for development in this town. So it's not just the planning board or a stacked committee like the Energy Advisory Committee or Farmland Preservation Committee. It's everybody in this town. And the process needs to be inclusive of everybody. And with that, I absolutely want to be the first one to represent landowners, be one person representing landowners on the update committee. So I'd like that known to the board tonight. And I feel, though, as far as a small task-oriented committee, again, no. Why do we hire a professional? We hire professionals because they think outside the box, they're neutral, and they've studied this in multiple towns across multiple states. And they're devoted to this. This is their job. This is yes, it's income. Yes, it seems like a large amount of money, but look at what we pay. Look at what we pay our town highway superintendent. We pay him $90,000 a year, and or close to it, plus benefits. And so you hire a professional to do a job. So I would absolutely have the board, this ought to be looked at from a couple different planning firms and get estimates. You got one, Victoria, I would say we need 3 or 4, and then choose from there. Landowners absolutely need to be part of the process. Landowners have the most at stake right now, and I've watched it the last few years, where homeowners they're trying to drive the bus here, and they're going to dictate what happens with the land in town. They moved here, and then all of a sudden they're going to say, I don't want to look at that. I don't want that. I don't want this. But they moved here because of the land, and the developers and the builders, they are exploiting the farmland in this town to their advantage, along with the realtors. And say, I know realtors have told people, boy, look at what you can see. You can see Warner's Farm, or you can see this, or you can see that. As far as I understand, the appraisal of your property doesn't include the view. And I'd like a ruling on that from the assessor. But I'm asking the town board, be inclusive. Yes, include the planning board. Yes, include the Farmland Preservation Committee, but include all of the people in this town. Do not rush the process. And I think also when you work on a schedule, I'm going to make it known right now, you work around the farmer's schedule in this town, because this comprehensive master plan is going to be driven a lot by the balance of open space and open land left in this town. And understand, Amber, you mentioned I have a day, you have a day job. Yeah, you have a day job. Farmers have a day job, and a lot of times a night job too. And that in the spring and fall during planting and harvest season, and that needs to be accounted for in this process. So absolutely no rushing through this process. That is just nothing, that's wrong. And I know where that's coming from. I know who's driving that and why it's being driven. But this needs to be well thought out and multiple public hearings on this. So the entire town, east to west, north to south, has input. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, Deb QC would like to chat again, it looks like. Deb, are you there?
I am, and I guess from my profession is procurement, and I applaud Jeff's comments around the requirements for decisiveness of expectations of what we're expecting a supplier, whoever it is, to deliver the expectations. And I guess I would say, yeah, you're going to get garbage in is garbage out. And if we don't define what the expectations are of what we want as a town collectively, that's a lot of money wasted. So we have a lot of different opinions and objectives of what this outcome should be. And I think it's worth a huge investment worth the investment upfront, rather, to make sure we define the specifications properly, because if we don't define it, shame on us, because we'll get what we deserve relative to lack of clarity and response from any supplier, any consultant, anybody that wants to participate with us. So I guess I would say the key thing is, how do we define our requirements of what this is? And let's make sure, to Jeff's point, that we engage all the right people. And, we can't overthink it, but we need to make sure that we're representing the town appropriately and the residents appropriately. And Victoria, thank you for taking charge of this. This is a huge task. It hasn't been done in a long, long time. And the requirements documents of this kind of bid is very complicated. So I would hope that based on this conversation, there's a lot of people that will help you do that to make sure that we're all heard.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
There is, I'm scrolling through the chat one last time, making sure I didn't miss anyone. Nope, we got everyone.
Okay, then I would like to thank everyone for your participation tonight. Thank you for your contributions. I appreciate it. Thank you for your openness and participating in the discussions. I really appreciate it. I know the board really appreciates it. And I hope in the future we can have more meetings like this where we hear everyone's opinion, and it hopefully guides us in the direction we need to go. So thank you very much. There being no further business to conduct, can I have a meeting? Yeah, a meeting. Can I have a resolution to adjourn the meeting?
Isn't it a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'm getting the hang of it, Jerry.
You're
All
okay.
I'll second it. All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank